I don't owe transparency to shadows. My light isn't here to justify itself to those blind to it. There comes a moment when you realize not everyone wants to understand you. Some challenge you. Some seek to control you. Others aim to confuse you until you question your own radiance. I was taught my whole life to communicate better, to explain myself, to be clearer, as if opening my heart would make others see me. But let me tell you, some aren't confused at all. They know exactly who you are. That's their issue. They don't misunderstand you by accident. They twist your truth on purpose. Because your clarity threatens the lies they cling to, your growth exposes their stagnation. Your peace amplifies their inner chaos. They're not lacking intelligence. They lack the will to face reality. They'd rather drain you until you shrink to fit their bitterness. Here's the trap you keep explaining, defending, justifying your choices, values, and boundaries as if your self-worth is on trial, as if they'll ever say, "Now I get it." They won't. Their goal isn't understanding, it's control. Your willingness to explain becomes their weapon to twist your truth against you. It's time to stop, not out of resentment, but from wisdom. You don't argue with darkness. You don't defend yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You don't explain your light to those addicted to darkness. There's a reason your silence unsettles them more than your words. Silence is where power resides, where boundaries are honored, where dignity becomes non-negotiable. This isn't anger. It's an invitation to clarity, to reclaim your energy from those who feed on emotional chaos and demands. This is a message of emotional wisdom, of psychological boundaries, and of quiet self-respect in a world of noise and reckless reactions. If you're exhausted from explaining yourself to those who don't deserve it, join me in this video to uncover why some demand so much explanation, why silence is your greatest shield, and how to reclaim your inner peace, your self-worth, and the strength to walk away without apology. Start with this firm decision. Stop justifying yourself to the demons in others. Remember who you are. Not every attack is about you. Some attack you because you reflect what they refuse to face. Let this sink in. You're not the enemy, you're the mirror. When someone carries unresolved pain, unhealed insecurities, or lingering chaos, your peace becomes their irritation. Your boundaries feel like defiance. Your growth threatens them. Why? Because your light forces them to confront their own darkness. They don't hate your success. They hate what it reminds them they haven't achieved. They don't resent your confidence. They resent how it exposes their self-doubt. They don't attack your voice because it's wrong, but because it's clear. And clarity terrifies the emotionally fragile. This is what psychology calls projection. When someone can't face their own truth, they push it outward. They call you arrogant when you're simply confident. They label you selfish for setting boundaries. They brand you difficult when you stop pleasing them. If you're not careful, without emotional wisdom, you'll start believing them. You'll mistake their projection for truth. You'll doubt yourself. Shrink back. Question your instincts, not because you're wrong, but because their unhealed wounds cast shadows on you. Demons don't appear as movie monsters, but as subtle manipulators in everyday life. They smile while quietly undermining your confidence. They feign care while competing with you. Their advice drips with their own limitations, not your potential. The worst part, they often wear familiar faces: a parent, sibling, partner, friend, or boss. It's easy to spot a stranger tearing you down. It's harder to admit the person draining you might be someone you love. But if you're serious about self-worth and protecting your mental space, you must face this truth. Not everyone in your life has the emotional capacity to support your growth. Not everyone who says "I care" truly wants you to thrive. Some prefer the old, weaker version of you, easily manipulated, controlled, or guilted into compliance. When you evolve, they're triggered. They say you've changed, that you think you're better. You're not the old you anymore. And that's the point, isn't it? You've grown. You're not supposed to stay the same. Growth is the goal. Their inner demons: envy, unresolved anger, spiritual stagnation can't handle your transformation. So they provoke you, set traps, pull you into arguments. When that fails, they play the victim. This isn't love, it's emotional warfare. The only way to win is to refuse to play. Explaining your boundaries to someone who benefits from you having none is already a loss. You're speaking truth to someone who thrives on manipulation. You're reasoning with someone living in delusion. You offer vulnerability to those who see compassion as a tool to exploit. No matter how carefully you phrase it, how many times you explain, they don't listen. They filter everything through their own pain, and they'll twist every truth you speak into a weapon against you. That's why you must stop explaining, not out of pride, but wisdom. You're not here to fix what they refuse to face. You're not here to carry their demons. You're here to walk in your truth, quietly, steadfastly, unashamed. If your truth unsettles them, let it. That's not your burden. It's their mirror to face. There's a quiet tragedy in the lives of kind-hearted, soft-souled people. They believe if they explain enough, open up fully, clarify their intentions, they'll finally be understood. But they don't see that explaining to someone with a fixed judgment isn't transparency, it's self-erasure. That's where it begins. Quietly, you speak your truth. They distort it. You set boundaries. They call it selfish. You step away from toxicity, and suddenly you're the villain in their story. You replay conversations in your head, wondering how you could have said it differently. You soften your truth to make it palatable, hoping they'll see your heart. But they never do. And the worst part, it's never enough. No matter how much you say, how much emotional labor you pour in, they don't meet you halfway because they never intended to. Every time you try to convince them, a piece of you breaks. You start wondering, am I too harsh? Overreacting? Should I let it go? Is it my fault? This isn't just exhaustion, it's spiritual erosion. The slow diminishing of your self-worth as you seek approval from those who can't give it. This happens when you forget. Your truth doesn't need permission to exist. If you're not vigilant, you'll spend years trapped in that cycle. You'll over-explain your kindness to the cruel, justify your boundaries to the demanding, and defend your peace to those addicted to chaos. No matter how eloquent your explanation, it won't reach them. Why? Because they don't listen to understand, they listen to refute. They wait for cracks in your conviction, any waver in your voice, to attack, manipulate, distort, and make you doubt your own reality. You have no duty to explain your peace to those who thrive on conflict. Let that be your new boundary. This doesn't mean you shut down or grow cold, it means you guard your energy wisely. A hallmark of emotional intelligence is knowing not every why deserves an answer. Not every heart demanding yours deserves its reasons. Not everyone challenging your choices comes from love or respect. Some act out of envy, control, or projection. Explaining too much feeds the illusion they're entitled to your clarity. They're not. You have the right to silence. You have the right to walk away. You have the right to say, I won't justify myself to someone who weaponizes my words. This isn't defensiveness, it's psychological self-defense. Silence, born of dignity, not ego, is a mark of profound maturity. It declares I know who I am. I know why I choose what I do, and I no longer seek understanding from those who profit from misunderstanding me. This quiet strength separates the impulsive from the wise. The Stoics knew this long before psychology named it. Don't waste time arguing with those who thrive on disruption. The moment you stop explaining, justifying, or defending to those who don't honor your truth, you reclaim your time. You reclaim your clarity. You reclaim your power. A power that doesn't shout, doesn't prove, doesn't beg. It simply walks with calm eyes and purposeful steps. Why do you keep explaining to those who've shown they don't care to understand? Why do you give your energy like it's candy to people who take without giving back? The answer isn't what you think. It's not weakness. It's not lack of reason. It's because deep down, you've been conditioned to fix being misunderstood. You've tied your worth to being liked, mistaking acceptance for safety. When someone questions your choices, beliefs, or identity, you panic, explain, justify. You dive into emotional chaos, seeking peace in the storm. But here's the truth. To awaken to peace isn't found by negotiating with turmoil. Peace comes when you shield your energy from it. This is where emotional intelligence becomes non-negotiable, because without it, you'll keep draining yourself trying to be understood by those who are emotionally bankrupt. They don't understand you, and they're not trying to. They provoke, prod, twist, and bait, because the moment you explain, they win. Not because your reasoning fails, but because your attention is the currency they crave. Your attention is your power. Whoever controls your emotional focus controls your inner state. When someone can provoke you, goad you into explaining, justifying, proving, they're really controlling your energy. That's their victory. When you step into their arena to make them understand, you've left your solid ground. You trade inner peace for external validation, a losing deal every time. Some people thrive on your discomfort. They feel powerful when you scramble to defend yourself. They feel righteous when you lower your standards to fit their chaos. They feel seen when you explain your soul just to soothe their ego. But that's not connection, it's control. The more you feed it, the more you lose yourself. There's a hidden payoff in over-explaining. It feels productive. It creates an illusion of control. Like if you just phrase it better, they'll get it this time. But they won't, because they're not acting from curiosity, but from ego. And ego doesn't care about truth, it cares about winning. Each time you fall into the loop of explaining and justifying, you fuel their game. Worse, you deplete your own spirit. This is where your self-worth must rise. Not everyone deserves your truth. Not everyone has the right to your inner reasoning. You have the right to say, this conversation doesn't serve my peace. That's not rudeness. It's psychological boundary setting. It's the mark of a high-performance mindset. The most powerful people don't explain themselves to everyone. They act quietly and conserve energy. They know to walk away instead of arguing with those addicted to misunderstanding. It's time you followed suit. You've spent too long watering dead plants, explaining to souls that aren't ready. giving your peace to those who never meant to protect it. From now on, let this be your mantra. I owe no one an explanation for choices made for my peace. When you feel the urge to explain, prove, or defend, take a deep breath. Remember, you weren't born to perform for those secretly rooting for your fall. Frankly, one big reason you keep explaining is a deep craving for acknowledgement. You want someone to say, I get you. You're right. That hunger for validation is human, but it's also the most dangerous trap you can fall into. The moment your peace depends on others' understanding, you're no longer free. We're taught from childhood that being understood equals safety. If people agree with our thoughts, choices, dreams, we'll be okay. But no one told us the truth. Most people only accept you when you make them comfortable. Comfort rarely comes from truth. It comes from conformity, compliance, fitting their mold. When you break that mold, grow, surpass their limits, you're no longer controllable. You become a threat. They're not confused, they're annoyed. You no longer seek their approval, yet you keep trying, explaining, hoping this time they'll understand. But if someone truly wanted to understand you, they'd have asked deeper questions long ago. If they valued your heart, they wouldn't weaponize your vulnerability. So why do you keep going back? Because you've mistaken recognition for love. That's the most painful illusion to break. But break it you must. You can outgrow those who won't walk with you by choosing peace over performance. They'll call you selfish, distant, or cold. But choosing peace doesn't make you cold, it makes you clear. Clear that you don't need external validation to know your worth. Clear that you're not here to be emotionally manipulated by those who feed on your insecurity. This is your life's turning point. Keep explaining to those who judge, or accept that understanding isn't your birthright, and your truth doesn't need applause to be valid. True emotional intelligence is knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, because your energy is for preserving, not persuading. Now, let's talk about silence. There's sacred power in not responding when someone expects a reaction. It says you're no longer under their control. It doesn't feed their game. It doesn't fuel their drama. It doesn't give them the satisfaction of seeing you crumble. Instead, it leaves them alone with themselves. And for those craving control, that's unbearable. Don't mistake silence for weakness or peace for passivity. Sometimes, the strongest move is to walk away quietly. No long explanations. No loud exits. Just a firm decision. I don't need to be understood by those who choose not to see me. Your life isn't a courtroom. Your choices aren't on trial. Your truth doesn't need a defense attorney. You don't need validation to breathe, applause to heal, or permission to be free. You need courage to stop explaining and wisdom to see who never deserved it. Let me share a story. There was a brilliant, strong woman, full of light. She wasn't perfect, but she was genuine. She loved deeply, listened carefully, gave more than she received. Her flaw, she wanted to be understood by someone who never intended to try. His words were charming, his presence magnetic, but behind the mask was someone who didn't love her as a person. He loved the feeling she gave him. She thought explaining would bridge the gap. So she shared her past, her childhood wounds, her spiritual values. She explained why she needed solitude, why boundaries mattered, why chaos triggered her anxiety. Each time, he nodded. But each time, He twisted it later. You're too sensitive. You overthink. You're not fun anymore. You used to be easier. So she tried harder. She softened her tone, excused his behavior, told herself he meant well, that maybe she needed to be more patient, forgiving, open, until one day she saw the truth. She wasn't communicating, she was begging. The more she explained, the more she lost herself. That's how emotional theft happens, not with fists, but with your truth chipped away, stolen under the guise of trying to fix things. This isn't love. This isn't understanding. This is what psychology calls a trauma bond, a cycle where the victim keeps trying to win affection from the one undermining them. It's more common than you think. It's not always romantic. It's the parent who guilts you for having needs, the boss who praises you one day and demeans you the next, the friend who only calls when they need something but accuses you of being distant when you don't comply. The trap is the same. You keep explaining to gain respect. But respect doesn't come from over-explaining. It's built from self-respect and guarded by boundaries. Sometimes love must be tempered with reason. You can't always navigate toxicity with emotion alone. You must see it, name it, and walk away from it. No matter how beautiful the memories, how great the potential, or how many apologies they offer, it doesn't matter. If someone constantly demands you explain yourself, they're not confused. They're comfortable with your self-doubt. The hardest truth is they'll keep doing it until you stop engaging. You can't change someone who thrives on your misunderstanding. You can't heal in a space that keeps wounding you. You can't find peace with someone who lives off chaos. So how did the woman in the story heal? She stopped explaining. She quit sending long messages to clarify her intentions. She stopped justifying her need for space. She stopped trying to make him understand her words. Instead, she embraced silence. In that stillness, she rebuilt herself. She realized peace isn't earned by performing. It's her birthright. It's her standard. Those who don't respect it lose access to her, not out of hatred, but because she loved herself enough to protect her energy. You could be that woman, or you're still trapped in a version of her story. But the ending can change when you stop explaining and start reclaiming your power. Self-worth isn't something you prove, it's something you protect. No one, no matter how close, charming, or familiar, has the right to demand you justify your peace after years of emotional exhaustion, endless explaining, and defending. One day, you don't yell, argue, or collapse. You choose silence, not from fear, but from strength. Because you've learned this truth, silence isn't weakness, it's a boundary wrapped in calm. It's power without noise. In a world addicted to drama, your silence will unsettle them. They're used to emotional chaos. They're used to rattling you. They're used to controlling your nervous system. So when you don't react, don't explain, don't speak, they panic because silence isn't empty. It's filled with self-respect. It signals their tactics no longer work, that their access to your energy is revoked. That's when psychological boundaries are born. Boundaries aren't about telling others what they can't do, they're about deciding what you won't tolerate, won't respond, won't sacrifice, even if it costs you connections. Boundaries aren't loud. They don't come with warnings or ultimatums. They're felt through your consistency, your refusal to over-explain, your protection of your time, and your departure with dignity, not drama. People don't test your boundaries by accident. They do it to see if your silence is real. They want to know if it's solid or temporary, because they know if they push hard enough, hit the right wound, trigger the right guilt, you might cave. You might explain again. You might try to prove you're not the villain. If that happens, the cycle restarts. So you must decide, do I want to be understood by the wrong people? Or do I want peace in my soul? You can't have both. It takes spiritual discipline to stay silent when everything in you wants to clarify. It takes maturity to let go of being right and choose freedom. It takes emotional intelligence to see this argument leads nowhere. It only steals your energy. Silence becomes more than a tool. It's a philosophy, a daily commitment to preserve your peace, even if it costs approval, validation, or the illusion of harmony. You don't owe explanations for your boundaries to those who've shown they won't respect them. You don't have to teach others how to treat you forever. Sometimes, you don't need a stronger message, you need a stronger exit. Those who truly value you don't need constant reminders. They don't test your silence, they honor it. Those who don't were never listening in the first place, they were calculating. So shift your mindset. You don't need to be loud to be heard. You raise your standards to be respected. You don't over-explain, you outgrow. That's the Stoic lesson. Peace isn't the absence of conflict, it's the presence of clarity. Clarity comes when you stop reacting to every noise and only respond to what aligns with the noble person within you. If you're lost in an emotional storm, in relationships or within yourself, pause. Step back. Instead of explaining, let silence be your shield. Let your distance speak louder than any argument. Because the moment you choose stillness over defense, you shift from reacting to becoming untouchable. That, my friend, is how you guard your energy without saying a word. There's a quiet tragedy unfolding around us. Good people, kind-hearted and empathetic, pour their strength into being understood, keeping peace, avoiding hurt, even if it means wounding themselves. But here's what no one told you. Growing up, you don't owe anyone your peace. Not your partner, your parents, your past, or your pain. Your peace isn't a bargaining chip. It's not a favor to grant when someone's ego is bruised. It's your sanctuary, your birthright, your responsibility to protect. Yet so many of us give it away like it's worthless. We say yes when we mean no. We stay when we should leave. We explain until we're exhausted, depleted, resentful. Why? Because we were taught being good means being available. Loving means being soft. Spirituality means self-sacrifice. But true spiritual discipline isn't sacrificing your happiness for others. It's recognizing your inner peace as sacred ground, not everyone's to tread upon. Ask yourself honestly, how many times have you lingered in hopeless conversations just to avoid being misunderstood? How many times have you explained your values to those who mock them behind your back? How many times have you traded your peace to ease others' chaos? That's not peacekeeping, it's self-betrayal. The truth is, those who resent you for guarding your peace are the ones who benefited from you not having it. Let that sink in. When you set psychological boundaries, stop reacting. Stop over-explaining. Stop letting your soul be accessed by every opinion. Something strange happens. Those who cherish your peace draw closer. Those who need your chaos to control you call you selfish. That's the sign you're healing. Because here's the bitter truth. Few dare say some don't miss the real you. They miss the you who tolerated them. They miss the you who apologized for having boundaries, who stayed silent through disrespect. who explained your pain to those who weaponized it. But that version is gone, and it's not coming back because you've learned your energy isn't for giving away. Silence doesn't mean consent. Your peace isn't negotiable. This is emotional intelligence in action, choosing not to fight every battle. Not because you're weak, but because you know your peace is too precious to waste on those who don't value it. You weren't born to open your emotional doors to everyone. You don't exist to justify how others perceive your choices. You're not here to save people from the consequences of misunderstanding you. You're here to live authentically, aligned with your values. Standing firm, in unapologetic dignity. This is true self-mastery. A rare strength in a world that reacts impulsively. When you reach this place, people feel your absence in ways words never could. They realize you're not avoiding them, you're simply done with their drama. You're not ignoring them, you've outgrown the cycles they want to trap you in. That's what shakes them. They've lived off your guilt, your explanations, your need to fix things, your reactions. But when you choose silence, they lose access not just to you, but to the control they once had over your mind. That's why this silence is dangerous to them. It's not about winning or losing anymore. You've stepped off their battlefield. You don't need to be right. You need to be free. This shift terrifies those who rely on your pain, your reactions, your compliance. Silence is your refusal to play a rigged game. It's your escape from the emotional loops they want you stuck in. Silence is when your inner peace speaks louder than any opinion about you. If you're sitting in silence wondering if it's giving up, let me remind you, this silence isn't surrender, it's your sovereignty. It echoes louder than any words you've spoken. There's a moment in your journey when everything changes. You stop shrinking. You stop softening your voice to spare others' egos. You stop diluting your truth to make it easier to swallow. You stop apologizing not out of arrogance, but because you've seen the trap. Every apology for being yourself is silent permission for others to keep disrespecting you. You've apologized for growing, for stepping back, for needing space, for saying no, for walking away. You've apologized for your most sacred parts, your honesty, your clarity, your standards. But now you understand, the world doesn't need a softer you. It needs you raw, unfiltered, unashamed. You were never too much. They were too attached to keeping you small. Your depth makes them feel shallow. Your clarity exposes their confusion. Your calm makes their chaos unbearable. So they label you cold, harsh, selfish, or distant. But you were never those things. You were just done sacrificing your worth to their insecurities. This is the start of psychological detachment, not from love or connection, but from expectations, from emotional blackmail that says, stay small or lose me. Now you see, losing them isn't loss, it's liberation. You no longer feel guilty for raising your standards. You don't explain why your peace matters. You don't apologize for distancing yourself from those who weaponize your kindness. You don't apologize for setting boundaries they never learned to respect. You don't apologize for seeing through manipulation and choosing your mental health over endurance. You don't apologize for choosing inner peace over external approval. This is emotional intelligence at its strongest, not just understanding your emotions, but mastering how you respond to those who misuse them. Let them call it what they want. Let them spin their version of the story. Let them play the victim in a tale where you simply refuse to be their doormat. Because here's what most won't grasp. Your freedom feels like rebellion to those still caged. When you live unapologetically, you make different choices. You stop engaging in uninvited arguments. You stop answering questions that don't deserve responses. You stop explaining your evolution to those stuck in emotional kindergarten. You don't waste breath proving your peace is valid. You don't exhaust yourself making people like the version of you that's gone. You just walk in your truth whole. Keyword: unapologetic. And yes, they'll talk. They'll say you've changed. They'll say you're lost. They'll say you were easier to control before, though they won't use those words. But deep down, they know you haven't gotten worse. You've become whole. And wholeness threatens those who only love your fragments. So let them misunderstand you. Let them judge you from afar. Let them gossip while you grow. Because while they talk, you'll rise. You'll heal. You'll create. You'll step deeper into the life meant for you. One choice. One boundary. One unapologetic breath at a time. And in that moment, something miraculous happens. You begin to love yourself the way you once begged others to, without conditions, without explanations, without apologies, because now you know you don't owe anyone anything but the truth of who you are. You've said enough. You've guarded your heart. You've explained your soul's peace. You've opened up to those who never wanted to understand. Now, let your silence speak. No more justifying your worth, explaining your growth, or clarifying what should have been respected from the start. Some don't deserve your words, they only deserve your absence. There's a power only silence can hold, not the silence of defeat, but the silence of letting go, of wisdom, of serenity. A silence that says, I'm at peace with being misunderstood. I don't need your permission to be free. This silence terrifies those who control, manipulate with guilt, or weaponize confusion. Because when you stop explaining, they're left with nothing to twist, nothing to attack, nothing to distort. Only your calm, your distance, and your unshakable stillness remain. That's louder than any argument. It says, I'm done with this conversation. It says, your approval isn't my worth. It says, I'm not angry, I'm finished. This is the final step of emotional intelligence, not reacting, not engaging, just observing and withdrawing. True power isn't in domination, it's in discipline. Silence is the most disciplined response. It doesn't need to prove or seek applause. It doesn't beg for understanding. It simply walks away and lets the emptiness speak for itself. And trust me, they'll hear it in the quiet of your absence. They'll hear every boundary you no longer explain. They'll feel every ounce of energy you've reclaimed. They'll face their own reality without your voice to soften it. And in that space, one of two things will happen. They'll grow, or they'll stew in their bitterness. Either way, it's no longer your responsibility. Healing isn't just becoming whole, it's letting go of the need to be understood by those who choose to stay wounded. Let them sit with your silence. Let them wrestle with their own noise. Let them wonder why the power they once had vanished when you stopped speaking. Then they'll see you weren't the problem, you were the mirror, and the reflection was too real for them to bear. Here's your final reminder. You don't owe them explanations, closure, or one last justifying breath. You owe yourself the protection of your peace, the honoring of your truth, and the courage to walk with calm resolve and a quiet fire. Let your silence be your answer. Let your life be your proof. Let their confusion be the price they pay for underestimating your strength. You've explained enough. Now it's time to live authentically as you. You've spent years explaining to those who never listened, pouring energy into translating your heart into a language their egos refuse to learn. But now you know you don't need their understanding. You need your freedom. And freedom begins when you stop begging to be seen and start seeing yourself clearly. The shadows in others will try to pull you into chaos, but you weren't born to live in their noise. You were born to rise in silence, to live your truth, unshaken by turmoil,